Okay. So, step 4 in this owning the failure process. Step 4, find an opportunity to apply those lessons learned. So, going back to the homework analogy, the grading analogy, maybe you figured out that the reason it's not working is because you're not giving yourself enough sleep, you're not giving yourself enough time to do the assignments, you're just not giving yourself enough time and credit and patience and bandwidth and space. Okay, cool. You found out what the problem is. So you got to crack open the books and try to put that into practice. You've got to implement your lessons learned. You've got to put some action behind it. And I know, at least for myself, that was always probably one of the hardest things, was putting action behind it, putting some effort behind it, putting some momentum behind it. But you can sit there and say, I know exactly where it went wrong. I know what the problem is. If you don't do anything with that knowledge, what purpose did it serve? And I mean that. What purpose did it serve? Oh, well, I know more about myself. Okay. And are you going to implement that? Are you going to change anything? Are you going to get better? Are you going to try again? Oh, no. Well, I know about myself now. In my perspective, that is not a value generating activity. And I'm sorry if that sounds like corporate America speak. But guys, when the rubber meets the road, this has got to make your life better and easier, or the lives of those around you better and easier. If you sit there and you solve all the problems in your head, but you don't do anything different in your actual day-to-day life, like when you wake up and you're walking around your house, or you're walking around the neighborhood, or you're not doing anything different, you're still going to the same sites, you're still playing the same video games, you're still listening to the same music, you're still eating the same food, what did you do? And I mean that. If you've identified that you've gained 50 pounds because you're doing fast food 10 times a week, and you don't do anything to cut that back, Chief, what are you doing? And I mean that. What are you doing? Because all that effort and all that time you just put into to discovering that, it ain't getting you nowhere. You've got to change your life. Seriously. Like, if you're going to sit there and say, I know why I gained 50 pounds, because I'm eating a case of Coke, I'm drinking a case of Coke a day. Okay, cool. I'm happy you found that. Are you going to stop drinking the Coke? Are you going to cut back? Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm still finding myself. You did find yourself, but you're not changing anything. I'm serious, guys, and I'm, because I used to be there, okay? I would sit there and say, oh, well, I know what my problems are, and I know what's going on, and I know what to do. Okay, how come you're not doing anything? If you know what the root cause is, if you know you're drinking a case of Coke a day, if you know you're going drive through 3 times a day, and you don't attempt to modify that in any way, shape, or form, right? So instead of drinking 24 cans of Coke, how about we drink 20? Instead of doing drive through 3 times a day, how about we do drive through 1 time a day? I, you got to put it into practice, man. Like, I'm serious right now. Like, if you're not able to take that knowledge about yourself, if you can't take that insight, because number one, not everyone has that. Okay, there's a lot of people that are floating around and walking around and they don't know what's going on, and they don't know why they don't know what's going on. But you know what's going on. You know you're doing too much drive through. You know you're doing too much pop, and you're not doing anything different. Okay, now that is wasted potential. That is wasted talent. That is wasted time. That is wasted effort. Do not do that. Okay, do not do that. If you know what the problems are, if you know what the root causes are, I don't want to say you're under an obligation, but my God, why would you learn something about yourself and not do anything with it? Why would you do that? because at that point it would have been better if you didn't start. And I know that sounds shitty, and I know that sounds mean, and I know that sounds abrasive. And my perspective might change, but just where I am giving this speech, if you spent all that time and all that effort learning about yourself and learning your root causes and you don't change anything in your life, buddy, it might have been better if you just would have just kept doing whatever. Now, to pull that back a little bit, it is better to know what's going on, because you might not be able to change anything today. You might not be able to change anything tomorrow, but maybe 6 months from now you can start changing. So in that regard, yes, it is a positive that you learned about yourself. So I'll correct myself right here and right now. I'm not perfect. My perspectives can change even just in the recording of a video. So yes, if you do learn about yourself, if you learn about your situation, you might not be able to change anything today. You might not be able to change anything next week, but you know what? You might have an opportunity down the road, and I hope you harness that opportunity. I hope you harness that opportunity. Because, guys, if you take all that time and all that effort, understanding yourself and understanding the world, and you don't do anything different in your life, you owe it to yourself to say, you know what? I don't have a way to change anything right now. I don't have a way to implement this right now. Whether it's because you're physically in a different situation, you're mentally in a situation, you're financially in a situation, you're socially in a situation. Okay? If you honestly have no way to put it into action, if you have no way to implement it, if you have no way to start honestly changing it, then I'm going to say you owe it to yourself to come up with a plan for when the day comes. And when is that day coming? So if you say, I want to cut back on, watching, whatever the case may be, or, I want to start saving some money. If you say, I want to start saving some money, but you're pulling in minimum wage right now, I get that. I 100% get that. You're not exactly in a situation to save a lot. You're probably barely getting by, but you owe it to yourself to say, okay, if I were to start making some more money, what would I do differently then? What would I do differently then once the opportunity presented itself? So that way you can come up with like an action plan for the future to say, okay, so right now I'm in ABC, but let's say I get to XYZ. What would I do in that situation? What would I do with those resources? What would I do with those tools? Okay, so that's part one. You owe it to yourself to do that. And then part two in that situation is, man, start coming up with a plan to get there. If you're pulling in minimum wage right now, what's your plan to make an extra $5 an hour? Let's start off with that. You need to make an extra $5 an hour. What's the game plan for that? You're going to start filling out some applications. You're going to go get some certificates, get some licenses, start meeting some people, start working on XYZ, maybe doing some projects on your own time. Yeah, it sucks, but that's kind of what corporate America wants. You got to come up with a plan to get there. So you're going to say, if I was making 15 an hour, what would I be doing differently? And then number two, how do I get to 15 an hour? Okay. And I know some of you are probably saying, Jonathan, 15 an hour ain't a lot. It's a hell of a lot more than 8 an hour. And there's nothing wrong with 8 an hour either. If that's the best you can do for the time being, then you've just got to make the most of that. But if you're going from 8 to 15, that's a hell of a jump. And if you're going from 15 to 30, that's an even bigger jump. So don't sell yourself short in that situation. But like I said, guys, you've got to put that knowledge behind it. You got to put that action behind it. You got to get some momentum behind it. You got to sit there and say, listen, I learned all this about myself. I learned all these root causes. I learned all this stuff. I got to start doing, I've got to start putting myself in the path to start harnessing this information, to start applying this information. If and when that happens, you're going to say, wow, you know what? I remember it was such an uphill struggle to do this task last time. Now I'm giving it another spin, and it's actually a lot easier. And if you do that over and over and over and over again, it's going to become second nature. So put yourself in the path of success. Find opportunities to implement and apply the knowledge that you've learned about yourself. Alrighty, I will see you guys for the next lesson.